Welcome back to another episode of The Real Deal. Do you ever drive through your community, your city, your town, or another one and see protesters out there on the corner or somewhere, and you look at them and you wonder, do they really believe in the sign that they're holding? Do they really even know what they are talking about? And why can't I read the sign? Why didn't they learn to read? Maybe they should have stayed in school a little longer. Do they have jobs? I wonder a lot of this stuff. And in this day and age, I understand what they're doing, but do we really need that as much? Because there's more that you can share on social media, which everybody's on, than you can standing in a little town of just a couple hundred or a couple thousand people holding a sign that nobody can read. Because most people are flying by, driving through the intersection, and they ain't got time for that. You know what I'm saying? When I grew up, we had protests against the Vietnam War, and we would stand there with signs because we wanted peace. We didn't want our neighbors getting sent off to war and coming home in a wooden overcoat. We didn't want that anymore. It happened. We saw it. We didn't like it. And we never got violent. We would talk to the people about it. If someone would ask us, why don't you like the war? We would say, well, and here's why. And we would explain, well, this guy I grew up with, he died, and this, that, and the other. And they'd try to turn it around, and that's okay. But we could have good dialogue back then. You can't do that anymore. You can't do that. Nobody ever called us names or pushed us down or got violent or called the cops on us. I mean, there's butt heads on both sides. There always is, always will be. But for the most part, my groups were pretty good. And that went on into the future. And I remember during the George Bush Sr. Gulf War, I was living in California, and I don't like war. I think it's dumb, especially when you're going war with a country that's done nothing wrong to you. They're not really doing anything wrong to anybody else. We all know it's about money and, basically oil, because they got it and we want to control it all. We knew what that war was all about, and we didn't want another draft because we didn't want to go. And who knows what's going to happen. So we went out and we were protesting the war. And I remember it was my first big war protest, and I knew the guys in charge. I knew these people. I mean, I got along with them and everything, but they were kind of like, little arrogant, a little cocky. Everything they said was right. Nobody else. We'd have people, especially women. They weren't sexist. Just ask them. But if a woman suggested something, they scoffed at her after she walked away. It was kind of weird. But so we were out there, and where I lived up north in the valley was where the war machine was at. South of us was Fort Ord, and that was still operating back then, Army military base. And north of us was where they had a lot of military stuff, airplanes being built, helicopters being built, things like that. So we're out there holding our signs saying no war, no blood for oil. And then things started getting ugly. A lot of people go by and they honk. And then these guys started tearing stuff down. Private businesses that weren't corporation owned like Denny's or anything. These were private businesses, private restaurants. And they started breaking stuff and blocking the highway. And I proposed to them that they were stupid. They didn't want to hear that. I'm like, what are you doing? And they're like, we're going to block the highway so nobody can go up there and, be a part of the war machine. And I'm like, these people aren't a part of the war machine. A lot of these people support the war. A lot don't. A lot of these people are headed up north with their kids, or they've got to go to their jobs. But these guys weren't having it. And they started tearing down fences, private property, destroying people's stuff, and people that might have even been on our side. And it broke my heart. And I watched these guys, and I tried to stop them. And I'm like, this is dumb. The war machine is not going to be shut down because nobody got to their job today. And first of all, it's afternoon. Most of these people are already at their jobs working. But they tried to make a big scene. They lit fires. They did all kinds of horrific stuff. And I know why they were doing it, to get attention, to draw attention, because negative attention is still attention. And I ended up walking home, walking along the levee, that afternoon, and I had tears in my eyes because I couldn't believe what the human race was becoming. I know from my past how things were. I knew that we used to all be able to get along and stuff, and I saw these guys that claimed to be open-minded and peaceful and caring being basically pieces of dung they were so far to the left that they had gone back to the far right. They were just hypocrites. They were not caring about anybody but themselves. And that's what a lot of protesters do. That's what a lot of these guys do today. They hold a sign and they don't want to change the world for everybody. You go to an all-white community, 99% white community, little town, and they hold up a sign that says Black Lives Matter. And I look at them and I say, where are the black lives in your town? I had somebody one time tell me how many black kids were in the high school. And they were proud of that because it was the most ever. There were 6. And I'm like, you count them? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, what? Who does that? That's racist. But yeah, they were proud of that. And they got signs. They're holding a sign that says Black Lives Matter. And I'm like, yeah, all 6 of them matter. Actually, 4 of them are biracial. So technically there's only 4 fully on black people if you want to get all philosophical about the whole deal. But it was still stupid. I'll never forget that. Because I'm like, Black Lives Matter? Where they at? You have done nothing for the black community. You don't even go to the black community because you're scared, because you're a racist. And deep down inside, most of these people are racist. They're trying to atone for the racism and make up for it by holding up a sign. Your sign in an all-white community is not going to change the world in the black community. Not at all. Go out there and pick up trash. Go out there and help them out a little bit. Send them private donations. Send some money out there. Send some clothing. They don't need to know where it's coming from. You can just put it in a box and send it. Use their return address. Put their main address on there. They don't need to know. But most of these people, when they get out there, they got to get signs. They got to get it in the newspapers. They got to make it look good because it's all about them. They're not really trying to change the world. And if they are, they're only trying to change it for themselves. Because the majority of our society in the United States and probably the rest of the world is selfish. I've never seen the selfishness and the lack of compassion and empathy in the world as it is today. Never. These people out there, when they say, free this or free that, we don't want this. No, you don't care. You just want to look good because you're not really doing anything. Did you write a letter to your congressman? Did you write the senator? Did you call Congress? Did you call senator? If there's a problem with nature, did you call the DNR? Because your sign's not going to save the condors. No, because the condors can't read. And the DNR is not going to see it. And most of these people, their signs are basically, hooray for my side. And in the 21st century, in 2025, where we're at right now, do you really need to go out there and protest? I mean, you can put something on YouTube. You can have a podcast. You can go out there. You can get a hold of the mainstream media, which is everywhere now. You're not going to get covered on those protests. And people driving by and seeing it, it's not like it used to be because traffic's heavy. They're busy. They don't have time to look because they don't want to run a red light or run somebody over. And I don't blame them. You can get on social media, which everybody's on, and you can let everybody know how you feel and why you feel that way. Now, back in the day, yes, we needed to go out there. We needed to protest. We needed to hold signs. We needed to explain to people what was going on. We only had 3 channels back then, ABC, NBC, CBS. We had PBS, but they never put anything on there, too busy getting taxpayers' money. Anyway, it's not like it used to be. So you really need to go out there like that. And then you get these groups, they go out there once a week and they brag about it and say, we've been doing this for this long. Okay, good for you. Have you changed the world for anybody yet? Have you made a difference? No, not really. So go back to your $500,000 home, all right? Because you're phony. You're all phonies, man. And then you got these people, they don't protest the negative things. when a certain faction of the government is doing something wrong and they voted for that person, they don't stand up. They don't say anything. But when somebody else gets in there that they don't like him, whether he's doing good or not, they get out there and they hold their "No Kings" sign. Well, I hate to break it to you, but we haven't had kings since 1776 when we kicked the British's butt. We told them we weren't taking it anymore, and we didn't. We haven't had a king since, or a queen, and we're not gonna. And you say, oh, well, the president made an executive order. They all do that. They're allowed to do that. And if they violate the orders, the Supreme Court turns it over right away because the House and Senate will realize that and say that's illegal. And it gets over. Flip the switch real quick. But they don't like that because it's not their guy. And the problem is a lot of these people, they would vote for Adolf Hitler if he said, I'm going to create jobs and we're going to kill all the Jews and I'm a Democrat. They'd vote for him because that's where a lot of these people lean to the left. And I'm not bashing all the Democrats, but a majority of them talk a good game, and that's all they talk about. It's all talk. There's no action. You won't see them getting a hold of anybody. You ask them who their senator is or their congressman is, or who even is on the town council. They don't know. They don't know. They just want to look good out there. And their signs are all sticking up for their side. They don't say they want world peace. Saw a girl one day protesting recently. Free Palestine, from the river to the sea. Palestine will be free. I had to say something to her. And I said, what river and what sea? And she's like, well, free Palestine. I said, I get it. I get what you're saying, but what river? What sea? Well, Israel's creating a genocide. I'm like, okay, all right, that's not true. But hey, what river and sea? She didn't know what river and what sea. I asked her what a genocide is. She says it's when you kill a bunch of people. And I said, yeah, but what kind of people? She didn't know. She didn't know what a genocide is. For the record, genocide's when you kill a race of people. Like, the Nazis did with the Jews. That was a freaking genocide. Israel's fighting a war against terrorists right now that are trying to kill Israel. It's called a war, people. There's about 30 of them going on right now. I asked her about the Congo war, too. She was like, what? Because she didn't know. These people don't know what they're talking about. Her sign looked really nice, though. It was professionally done, so I know somebody made it for her. A company did or somebody. It wasn't no cheap ripoff or knockoff, so, but she had no clue what she's talking about. And that's how a lot of these protesters are. And they're only on the side that they want to be on. And it's not because they want to be on that side. It's because that side is possibly the winning side. They want to be on that side. They don't think that way. They don't even know what they're protesting or thinking about. Now, you see a lot of these protesters, and you know me. I come at you with the truth, 1,000% truth. I research everything. I don't go into Fakepedia, and I don't look up everything on Google and believe AI assist. I do my research. Everything I'm telling you is true. There are a lot of companies that pay for these protesters out there. Now, you'll see them in the big cities out there. A lot of homeless people out there. A lot of homeless people out in L.A. There'll be a big protest. Well, those homeless people, they actually get paid, to stand out there. There'll be people out there to make sure they stay and not rip them off. And they get paid over $100 to go out there, which is, good money to do nothing. But a lot of these companies pay for these crowds. And there is a company, a big one, called Crowds on Demand. And what they do is basically they do what's called astroturfing, which is where you put down the fake grass on the football fields. You're putting fake people on the protests. So we call it astroturfing, and it's where you create a false appearance for a genuine grassroots movement, like the Free Palestine movement. It's supposedly genuine, or whatever's going on. Like right now, if you're anti-Charlie Kirk, they'll get these protesters out. If there's a company like Tesla, they all love Tesla. Then he started hanging out with Trump. Next thing you know, you see all these protesters out there, and they're selling their cars, burning their cars. Rich people, famous people were selling their cars and making videos. I'm like, you're rich, you're famous, give your car away. Sounds good, doesn't it? Well, they won't do that. They got to make it look good. It's all about them. But that's what they do. They create a false appearance. And their goal is to manipulate and to distort the view of public opinion. Kind of like what the media does. That's exactly what the media does. And that's what these companies do. And they get you out there. And you'll see it. You'll be like, wow, look at all those people. They must be right. I don't want to be on the wrong side because, there's safety in numbers and it doesn't make you look good, and you don't want to be all alone, just like when you go to school and everybody smokes and you light one up because I don't want to be the only one left out, man. 50 people are smoking. I better smoke too because, I'll get bullied if I'm not. That's how it is with this. They'll call you whatever. You're a racist because you don't think Black Lives Matter. Actually, I do believe Black Lives Matter. I believe all lives matter. Blacks are equal to whites. And I'll do more for one black person in one day than you'll ever do for the whole black community in a freaking lifetime. Ugh, choked on those words. I got so fired up. Sometimes I get fired up with this stuff, especially like that girl with the Free Palestine. Stupid moron. I'll be honest with you. I used to say ignorant, but now I don't. I say these people are stupid. They don't even research this stuff. They just go out there and say this, and they say that, and they have no freaking clue. So they're creating an illusion of widespread support because most people, like I said, want to be on the side that's winning. And these people, their signs are not saying save the world or let's do this. It's like, let's say hooray for our side. They're all about themselves. They don't care about me. They don't care about you. Charlie Kirk had his memorial service, his funeral today. There were protesters there. Now, what are you protesting Charlie Kirk for? The man's dead. He was assassinated. I mean, that's just rude. Now, a lot of the people out there today were, from the Westboro Baptist Church. I know you've heard about them. Bunch of nut jobs. And they were holding signs saying, God sent the shooter in fury. America is doomed. And then there was another woman out there who wouldn't give her name, though, but there was a whole bunch of them holding these signs up. And one said, it should be quick. It should be televised. Rot in hell. Talk about Charlie Kirk being assassinated. And they went and interviewed her, and they're like, well, why are you holding this sign? Why are you here? And the people were like, because we hate Charlie. I'm standing up for what I believe in. I like when bad things happen to bad people. And she called him an asshole. And I'm like, wow. You know what? You like when bad things happen to bad people. That's pretty rude. Like I always say, what if something happened to her family? And we went out there with a sign saying this, and we told that she was a butthole too, and that we hate her. Don't even know this chick. But, she was a Karen, obviously. This old sea hag, you could tell. Probably hasn't been touched in a lot of years. You know how the purple hairs are. But anyway, it's just, who's going to protest a funeral? I mean, like I said, if Hitler was a Democrat, they'd vote for him, knowing what he did. And they'd probably find forgiveness for him. They'd probably be like, well, he's not that bad. That's how messed up these people are. That's how the thought process is. If somebody protests my funeral, I give everybody listening the right to kick some butt. And I'll leave you some money so you can bail yourself out of jail. And if you're in the right community and you do it, well, some of the police know me and they like me. And some of them listen to my stuff and they like it. So they'd probably look the other way and might even help you. But we have to join together, people. And we have to fight the phonies. We have to stand up to these people. The first thing you do is don't give them any attention. Don't honk your horn. Don't flip them off. Drive by like they don't exist. They love the attention. Even negative attention is still attention and better than nothing. They get off on it. It's probably the only orgasm they have anymore. I'm just saying. But it's like, don't give them the time of day. Don't argue with them. Don't debate with them. They don't know what they're talking about. They're ignorant. They'll tell you you're on the wrong side. I get people telling me all the time, I'm on the wrong side of history. How's it going to feel? If you're right, you're right. But I feel I'm right. So I'm going to believe what I want to believe in. We all have that right. They have the right to believe what they want, but don't give them the time of day, people. Just ignore them. Don't give them what they want. These people don't know what they're doing. They only care about themselves. They don't do anything to help anybody else. They're some of the most selfish people on the earth. They call themselves progressives. They call themselves open-minded. They call themselves liberals, but they don't even know the true definition of liberal. You want to know what the true definition of liberal is? That is somebody that believes in liberty. Liberty and equality for everybody, whether you agree with them or not. That means that, okay, you have the liberty to believe your religion, whether I agree with you. You have the liberty to do this, whether I agree with you or not. And I will fight for your right for your liberty and freedom of speech. You can think different than me. That's how I feel. That's the respect I'll give others. So I expect the same respect back. But do I get it? Do you get it, people? Do you get it from the left? No, you don't, and you're not gonna. So don't give them the time of day. Don't waste your time debating them. It's not worth it. Stay strong and keep it real.